everybody, and welcome to Sports Shorts from the Women's Rights Network. I'm Jane, I'm part of the sports group, and this week I'm joined by Faye.
Hi, everybody.
And Maria.
Hi, everyone.
So we'll be bringing you some news stories about women's sports, and it's been a very, very busy week. I would class this week as the week that saw almost the demolition of women's sports. There have been so many depressing stories. However, there have also been some good news stories, so we'll run through them. I'm going to start off with last Sunday, the Ultimate Pool Women's mini-series, where two males ended up competing against each other in the semi-final. Harriet Haynes won through to the final where he was beaten. And to be honest, it was so depressing. I mean, pool is one of those sports that really has not got it right. However, there's another pool organisation that has stood up for women's rights. And Faye, you know a bit more about this. The 8-Ball Pool Federation.
Yeah, so it's the English Blackball Pool Federation, and Harriet Haynes is taking them to court because they have actually decided to protect the female category. So they're saying only females can compete in the female category, which means he's ineligible, to play in their tournaments. Now, they're only a very small organisation, so they're going to need a little bit of help. They do have a crowdfunder for this case that Haynes is bringing against them, and we can provide the link for that. But yeah, so there's a hearing scheduled. I think it's in Cambridge, but it's next April 2025. So I think we should really support that. That will set a precedence.
Definitely. I mean, they're doing the right thing by women and girls by supporting fairness. It's a no-brainer, and they're following the Equality Act 2010, which states that it is lawful to exclude males from the female category. So, well, let's hope we get the right result from that. We've also had some other news from fencing and darts, and Maria, you've been following these quite closely. What's been happening?
Thank you, Jane. Yes, I have. So the fencing story, excuse me, is around the World Masters Fencing Championships in Dubai this week, where Jane Clayton, who is a GB competitor, it's an over 70s match, an APE event, and she got silver in the final against someone called Elizabeth Kokub, who's an American male who identifies as a woman. There were 37 entries in this event, which meant that obviously every woman was pushed down the rankings, including another GB woman, who Janet Barron, who would have actually gone home with the bronze if the rules had actually been fair. The International Fencing Federation follows the 2015 Olympic guidelines, which allows males to compete in the female category if they reduce their testosterone. And unfortunately, also the British Fencing guidelines allows males at any age to self-identify in the female category on a sort of case-by-case basis, confirmation by a fencing medical officer, whatever that may mean. So it's a really hideous story, this one. And in fact, if you look at the sorry, Jane, I was just going to say, if you look at the coverage, if you look at the podium photograph, I think it says it all about how Jane Clayton feels about her silver medal in that situation.
Yeah, her body language was very expressive, and it was quite similar to that famous photo of Leah Thomas on the podium with all the other swimmers not getting anywhere near him. And the thing that gets me is that this individual from the American fencer this is their 9th world title that they have won. So they have pushed women out of 9 world championship titles. Absolutely shocking. And fencing haven't got a grip with it. And it's obvious that longer arms and longer legs in a sport where you lunge at your opponent, that's a huge advantage. And he's head and shoulders above the women. I'm so disgusted by that one. There's another one in darts though, isn't there, Maria?
Yes, this is equally depressing, in fact. And this one's been going on a while too. This is an individual called Noelin van Leuven, a Dutch trans-identified male, who has won a 5-3 victory over Bo Greaves, second time that he's beaten her in the World Series 21, which actually means he's qualifying now for the PDC World Darts Championship later this year, which actually will get a lot of coverage. But this has had a bit of a following, you know, an interest level for a number of months now with this individual. The newspaper headlines yesterday were saying transgender, you know, makes a first, you know, in terms of winning the women's series, about it being important that it was a transgender woman that's done this. It's incredibly disappointing that darts have continued to allow this to happen. And again, going back to your point, Jane, around, you know, arm length and, you know, muscles and the physicality of it all, it's just appalling, really. A man is going to beat a woman at darts at that level.
I mean, even if there was no biological advantage, even if there wasn't, it's called a women's darts match, you know, so a male shouldn't be in it. I mean, I just find it incredible, really, really incredible. And the other thing was that the women there's a few women like Dieter Hedman who's forfeited matches rather than play against a male. And the Darts Federation have now said, well, if you forfeit a match, you'll be subject to disciplinary procedures, you know.
Yep.
So you can't even protest. You can't even do that. So no, shocking.
Let's hope they all protest, and
Well,
then
it
there
would be,
won't be
yeah.
enforcement.
I mean, we shouldn't have to. The darts, you know, the sports federations should just recognize that what they're doing is wrong. But it is going to come to that. I mean, we've seen it in the volleyball in America, where the teams are forfeiting their matches rather than play against men. And some of the footage coming out of America of males spiking the ball into the face of females and giving them serious injury. I mean, it's just appalling, really. At this point, I'm going to shout out for England volleyball, which has fair policies for women and will not allow males onto the pitch, onto the court. So shout out for England volleyball. We've got another little depressing story, haven't we, Faye, from the FA, our old friends, the Football Association.
Yes, it doesn't get any better, does it? So the story this week is that there is a 17-year-old girl, it says with suspected autism, and she faces a 12-match ban from the FA for asking a transgender opponent, "Are you a man?" So apparently this man with a beard appeared on the pitch and a girl called it out. What's wrong with that? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But yeah, she's going in front of a disciplinary panel. But the FA, they're so proud, aren't they? When we spoke to them, they were so proud of their 72 males who are currently playing in the English women's football leagues.
And the problem with the 72 males is that the problem is now so bad in football, it's going to take quite an effort to make it fair again. You know, and I expect behind the scenes they're all saying, "Oh no, it's not fair if we can't play in the women's leagues." You know, I bet there's all sorts of pressure going on. So we do need people to speak up and be brave, like this young. I mean, I don't know if she was being brave. She was just calling out what she saw as the truth. You know,
well, you know,
well done
she's
her.
exactly. She was protecting her boundaries, wasn't she? What are we telling girls? No, you can't call this out. No, you must go along with all of this coercion. It's so wrong.
It is very wrong. I don't know where it's going to end. I mean, it's depressing. However, there is some good news on the women's sports front. I mean, our female sportswomen have excelled in many sports this week. One of them is cycling. It's been the World Championships for the last few weeks, and the track team have absolutely excelled. I mean, I've lost count of the number of medals, but I'll just read out a few. Emma Finucane won the individual sprint and the team sprint with Sophie Capewell and Katie Marchant. Then the team pursuit gold, Katie, Jess Roberts, Josie Knight, Anna Morris and Meg Barker. And Anna Morris also won individual pursuit. And I just want to say, I would just want to tell you what Meg Barker said when she'd won the gold. I mean, she's such a lovely woman. When you win, it feels easy. And I think that's such a lovely thing, because when you win, you are on top of the world. And well done to all of those women, because that is a sport that is tough, really tough.
Brilliant.
We also saw a bit of a groundbreaking sport this week. We had the first ever Women's America's Cup, and I don't know if any of you follow sailing, but that's these amazing boats that look like something from the space age, and they have people inside who cycle. A lot of rowers go into it because you need very good heart and lung capacity and strong legs. So absolutely amazing. We thought GB were going to win, but they were pipped by the Italians, but amazing, absolutely amazing effort by them. And what else have we got? Oh, we're going to mention some men this week. We're going to let some men into our Sports Short podcast. We have full of admiration this week for Oliver Brown, who has been announced Sports Journalist of the Year. He writes for The Telegraph, and he has been absolutely fantastic in highlighting this war against women that's happening in sport. And he did a fantastic interview a couple of weeks ago with Reem Al-Salem, who is our UN rapporteur on violence against women. And she's done some fantastic work, and Oliver did a really good interview. If you get a chance to read that, he won his award for that, in my opinion. He was also brilliant during the Paris Olympics. I mean, he was the one that got Thomas Bach to admit that those boxers were female in the passports. Couple of other lads I'd like to mention, and they are lads, and I'm sure they'd be the first to admit it. Andre and Ash from Talk TV. They are salt of the earth. They do a late night talk show on Talk TV, looking at all the subjects that no one else will discuss, including women's sport. And they had me on this week. And despite behind the banter, and there is a lot of banter with them, they do actually get it. And they're really supportive of Women's Rights Network and women's sport. And they have a huge male audience. And if we can get Andre and Ash to get their male audience engaged, I think that would really help, and get some dads and some men just to support the women in their family and call this out. So thank you, lads. Back to the women. Don't want the men to stay too long in our podcast. Back to the women, and Faye is going to talk about our Woman of the Week. So over to you, Faye.
Yes, so this week I'd quite like to introduce you to Trudy Ederle, and her claim to fame is that she was the first woman to swim across the English Channel. And I discovered Trudy's story after watching the recently released film called Young Woman in the Sea, it's all about her extraordinary achievements in swimming. And the main part of the story is this epic battle to become the first woman to swim across the English Channel, which she did in 1926. She just had incredible stamina and strength, and just this sheer determination to finish what she decided she was going to do, which just amazing. But the film sort of it's a biography, if you like, although there is quite a lot of artistic license. But she was born in New York in 1905, and both Trudy and her sister were good swimmers, and they started learning from quite a young age. I think they were quite lucky where they were, because they were close to the Women's Swimming Association, and they managed to get in there, and they had this top class coach who taught them this new and really efficient stroke, which they called the American crawl, and that's what we call freestyle or front crawl now. But they basically started out with they called it a 4-beat. So that would be 4 leg kicks per arm stroke. So they start out with 4-beat, and then they increase this to 6, 8, and even a 10-beat crawl. I don't even know how that's possible, but yeah, it's a lot. But Trudy perfected the 8-beat crawl, and that really suited her, and she went on to set several national and world records, all before she was 20.
Wow.
And then in 1924, she represented the USA at the Paris Olympics, where she won a gold and 2 bronze medals.
I read that she was quite disappointed with those. Although, I mean,
Yes,
obviously not disappointed with the gold, but I think she'd gone with the expectation of winning everything.
this is right. Yeah, and I think there was a lot of pressure on her, wasn't there, because she was this amazing swimmer,
Mm.
and people thought, yeah, her coaches and everybody thought that she was going to do really, really well. I mean, I think a gold and 2 bronze is pretty good
I'd be
personally, but
happy with that.
yeah, but she was disappointed with that. But after the Olympics, she did pick herself up quite quickly, and she took part in this open water race. And I think it was just really for a bit of a laugh, but she actually set a new record. And it was 16 miles of open water, which she did in 7 hours. And I don't know New York very well, but this is from Battery Park in Manhattan to New Jersey.
Mm.
But this amazing achievement, it's still celebrated today with an annual swim that they've named after her. So, doing this open water race, it sort of convinced her, and also knowing that somebody she trained with quite a lot, Helen Wainwright, she was planning to swim the English Channel, but she'd had to give up because she had an injury. But that gave Trudy the confidence to think about, actually going for it and going for swimming across the English Channel. And she would be, the first woman to do that. But it's 21 miles through cold, rough, jellyfish and shark infested waters of the English Channel. I mean, did you know there were sharks in the English Channel?
I wasn't aware. I mean, I have heard that there are sharks around, but I loved what she said about whether she was scared of sharks, and
Yeah.
her reply was, well, no, not really, because they're man-eating sharks, as if they weren't going to touch a woman.
That's brilliant.
I thought that was a great reply.
It was a really good response, that. Yeah. So
I,
yeah.
I was going to say, can I share a nugget I found out about her?
Yeah, go on.
Just before she did the swim, and you can probably confirm this, Faye, because you're the expert, that she had leaky goggles, which isn't great, as we know, and she had the idea to waterproof them using melted candle wax. And she actually did this just one day before the actual swim. She discovered this and implemented it. And so they're kind of they're really famous, these goggles, and they now sit in the National Museum of American History.
Oh, wow.
Apparently.
Yeah, I think they were actually motorbike goggles. So
Oh,
it
really?
was all very Heath Robinson, it was all sort of, should make do. And I think they worked quite well, didn't they? But
No wonder they were leaky
yeah,
then to begin with. But
yeah, but she sorted
fantastic.
it out, yeah.
But
Yeah, so well,
she did do the swim in the. I mean, the first attempt wasn't successful, was it?
no, in 1925, she was only 19. She had a go at it. But she set off at 7 a.m. from France, really good cracking pace, and the conditions were good. But by midday, I think the weather conditions had become quite bad. But she carried on. She was only 6 miles from the English coast. But she was quite exhausted and disoriented, and that was after 9 hours. But she was pulled out of the water. And this there's a little bit of, I don't know, not controversy, but maybe different opinions about why this was. But basically, it's thought that her coach had doped the tea that she drank, that he'd given to her while she was in the water. And I think he may have been trying to help her, but in the film, it's sort of interpreted slightly differently.
Well, the things I read was that he popped a bit of cocaine in her beef tea to give her a bit of a lift, possibly thinking that it might, speed her up a bit, but actually had the reverse effect of making her feel thoroughly ill, because she obviously never drank or took drugs. I mean, she was a clean living woman. So, yeah, bit back. I think he got the sack after that, didn't he? She
Yeah,
had
well,
to.
she moved on to rely on somebody else to help her in the next attempt. But yeah, I mean, she was so tired, and then I think she slept for something like 16 hours after they pulled her out of the water. So there's something wasn't right, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then the next year, in August 1926, she tried again, and spoiler alert, like we haven't spoiled it already, but
she did it.
Which, she succeeded. Yeah, amazing. So she was the first woman to cross the English Channel in a time of 14 hours and 39 minutes, which was faster than all the 5 men that had previously achieved that same that same
Wow.
challenge.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And actually,
Like a record then.
yeah, definitely. And she actually swam 35 miles. It wasn't, you know, just as the crow flies. It was, you know, it was much further than much further than that. So amazing. But I think the thing I loved the most were the absolute scenes when she got back to New York. Hundreds of thousands of people out on the streets as she was driven through the city, and it was the biggest parade that has ever celebrated an athlete, you know, before and since. And I just love the black and white footage. You can see video of her, you know, waving to the crowds in the car, and it sends shivers up your spine. It's so wonderful.
That's brilliant. And actually, you know, when people say, oh, people aren't interested in women's sport, oh, they are. I mean, they've always been interested in women's sport. And that just proves it. We just sort of got a bit lost along the way. Oh, that's
You know,
fantastic, Ray.
celebrations. I think, I mean, I read somewhere there were 2 million people that came out in New York, you know, and it's ticker tape parade, you know, people, it was just, yeah, amazing. Why don't we do that anymore?
Yes, definitely. Oh, fantastic. No, I'm going to go and watch that film now. Woman and the Sea, Young Woman and the Sea. I'm going to go and find it. It's on Disney, I think.
It's on Disney Channel, yeah.
We'll pop a link in the show notes to this, because that sounds quite a good film. So looking forward to that. Oh, thank you, Faye. Right, we're nearly coming to the end. We've just got our 2 regular features in the sin bin, and Maria has chosen an organisation to go in the sin bin this week. So tell us all about it, Maria.
Yes, I'm afraid to say, Jane, it's the BBC, it's the sports department.
Ooh.
They've announced their Women's Footballer of the Year nominations, which includes Barbara Banda from Zambia, who has previously been left out of the Zambian squad for the Women's Africa Cup of Nations, claiming, basically they failed a gender test, and we know what that means.
So we do know what that means. Failing a gender test. If you are doing a gender test for a women's match and you fail it, it means you're male. Woo.
Exactly. Also a former professional boxer, I understand, as well. I mean, you can see from the pictures, you can make your own judgments with that. But yes, so really disappointed with the BBC. Basically, you know, out of all the people they could nominate, they could nominate, you know, women, so to speak. So why they've done this, God knows. What I will say, our response to all of this was actually captured in the Daily Mail earlier this week, which I was delighted about, actually, that the Women's Rights Network got mentioned, having accused the broadcaster of bringing female sport into disrepute, which I thought was a fabulous statement, after Barbara Banda was included on a 5-player shortlist. I mean, it's a great shame, obviously, it had to happen for us to call it out, but I'm pleased it's got, again, coverage in mainstream newspapers, because this is very much a mainstream issue. So yeah, definitely BBC in the sin bin this week.
Yeah, well done. I agree. In the sin bin with the BBC Sport Department. I mean, they have got previous in sort of coming up with things like this. They seem to be great supporters of males in female sports. So a worthy winner of in the sin bin. And I get the job this week of choosing our star of the week, because we'd like to end on a high. And I have chosen this week Adriana Brownlee, no relation to the Brownlee brothers and the triathletes. She has just scaled the last of the world's 14 mountain peaks that are over 8,000 meters high. And that includes, obviously, Everest, K2, Annapurna. I mean, K2 is said to be one of the most dangerous mountains in the world. I mean, they're all pretty dangerous. I mean, well, any mountain's dangerous, in my opinion. But she said it was the most incredible moment. She's only 23. She's the youngest woman to have ever done that. And I heard her on the radio, and she just sounded inspiring. She said, as she was scaling this final mountain, which she said, I saw the peak coming up, or something, words along these lines. I saw the peak coming up and I started crying, because I realized the achievement I was about to make. And then I got to the top and I cried again.
Oh,
That's
Well,
lovely.
she does. I mean, she was, you know, had every right to cry. It was a
Hmm.
fantastic achievement. So well done, Adriana, and we wish you well for your future mountaineering career. Although what you've got to tick off now, I don't know. But what an inspiration to any young woman wanting to climb every mountain. So well done. Thank you. Right, I think we're at the end of our sports shorts from Women's Rights Network, and thank you, Faye, thank you, Maria. It's been very entertaining this week, if a little depressing in parts. If you want to get in touch with us, please email us on sports@womensrights.network. And we are also on X, on Facebook, on TikTok and Instagram. So get in touch through any of those. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for everybody who's contacted us after our first two podcasts. It's been really lovely to get such positive feedback. But any feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Maria.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
And goodbye, Faye.
All right, see you soon. Bye.
Bye from me. Thank you.